Welcome. Today, we are going to talk about an art that our busy world has almost forgotten. And that art is the art of being alone. Renuka Gyurani's book dives deep into this very topic and teaches us how to transform our loneliness into a powerful solitude. So this is a journey that will start from the noise of the outside world and end at the peace within us. So let's begin with the most basic question. What is it about this thought that we are alone that creates a strange restlessness inside us? Something to think about, right? And see, this is not just one person's problem. It is a social fear that is ingrained in the very fabric of our society. This book searches for the roots of this fear and tells us that this fear is not natural, but taught. Look, from childhood itself, a kind of programming is done in our minds. We are made to believe that being alone is a punishment, a failure, which means no one has accepted us. And this is the social script that we unconsciously, without thinking, keep following. And then what happens? This very script becomes the truth of our lives. Remember your school days. The book mentions a girl who was always alone, eating lunch alone, walking in the corridor alone. And how did everyone look at her? With pity. This is what our society teaches us, that a lonely person is weak and undesirable. And this thought sinks in so deep that we become dependent on the presence of others for our own happiness and peace. And to tell the truth, this is the real root of the problem. We are not as afraid of being alone as we are of what people will think when they see us alone. Those inner voices that come, saying, "Oh, people might think I have no friends. What if I'm seen as someone left behind in the race of life?" It is this fear, this burden, that does not let us meet ourselves. So now we come to the most important turning point of this discussion. This book teaches us to draw a clear line between two different things. On one side is being alone, and on the other is being a victim of loneliness. They might sound similar, but there is a world of difference between them. And understanding this difference is the first most important step towards transformation. So what is this loneliness? It is actually an inner condition, a mental prison. It is the feeling that eats us from inside. That tells us we are incomplete, that our happiness is somewhere outside in other people. It is a cage that we have built ourselves and imprisoned ourselves in. And it doesn't matter how many people are around us. And now, in complete contrast to this is solitude. Solitude is not a compulsion. It is a choice, a conscious decision. It is the time when we disconnect from the world and connect with ourselves. It is not a cage, but a home that we build inside ourselves. A sanctuary where we peacefully listen to our thoughts, pursue our hobbies, and explore our own depths. Look, here the difference is very clear. On one side is that cage that stands on the opinions of others and diminishes our self-respect. And on the other side is that home that is built from our inner connection and increases our self-confidence. The simple truth is, loneliness is a compulsion, while solitude is a luxury. So the question now is, how do we break this cage and build this beautiful home? The answer is simple. This journey is not of the outer world, but of our inner world. Its purpose is just one, to know and to like the person we spend the most time with. That is ourselves. This call perfectly describes the biggest obstacle in this journey. We are so afraid of the sound of our own thoughts that we constantly seek refuge in noise. But what happens? In this noise, we lose our real voice. And the cost of not finding ourselves is very high. A life lived according to the expectations of others, not by our own will. So what is the first step? It is simply to sit in silence and listen to the noise happening inside you. The goal here is not to suppress those thoughts. Absolutely not. It is to simply watch them as a witness, to understand them, to try to know which fears, which desires, and which dreams are buried somewhere deep within us. Granted, this is the first and perhaps the most difficult step of meeting oneself, but it is also the most important one. And when we start this journey, when we become friends with solitude, then we receive its reward. And this reward is not an ordinary thing. It is a superpower, a strength that makes us creative, gives us focus, and makes us mentally very strong. If we look at history, we find that the world's great philosophers, artists, and thinkers were all admirers of solitude. They all knew how necessary it is to step away from the noise of the world and listen to one's inner voice to do any real, deep work. For them, solitude was not a weakness, but their greatest strength. And in today's world, its importance is even greater. This digital world of ours, where every moment some notification is ready to distract us. In this noise, the ability to think deeply and focus on a single task has become a rare and precious skill. It is a new luxury, and solitude gives us precisely this skill. So far, we have understood why solitude is important and what its benefits are. Now, let's talk about practical steps. The question is, how can we turn our alone time from a burden into a delightful habit that we look forward to? Let's look at some ways to lay the foundation of this home. This question is very important: how to transform alone time into a time of growth. See, the goal is not just to pass time, but to use that time for your own nourishment. Think of it as a blank canvas on which we can paint the colors of our choice. So the question is, what are those colors? Here are 3 very simple but powerful ways. First, create joy for yourself. Do the things that make you feel genuinely good. Second, learn new skills. Challenge yourself. Learn something new. Third, feed your mind. Books, podcasts, anything. When you do all this, your inner world becomes so rich and interesting that you no longer need anyone else for your happiness. You become your own friend. And here is the real challenge and perhaps the most powerful step. Do the things we always want to do with others, for ourselves. Go to that restaurant alone where you thought of going with someone. Watch that movie alone for which you were waiting for a partner. When we take responsibility for our own happiness, this act truly sets us free. This quote sums up this entire journey. The scary news is you're alone now. This can seem frightening at first because all the responsibility is now ours. But the good news is you're alone now. This same feeling is also the greatest means of freedom, because now we can live our life on our own terms. So these are the 2 sides of the same coin, fear and freedom. And the choice is ours as to which side we want to look at. If this conversation helped give you a new perspective, please like this video, subscribe, and do share it with your family and friends who want to upgrade their lives.